Hi everyone, welcome to the ASU Academic Integrity Policy Self-Study Materials presentation. This is a presentation that you should view before you take the academic integrity activity on the Blackboard shell. Really important that you are familiar with the ASU Academic Integrity Policy and the Code of Conduct. So right now you should go and visit these two websites. There's links in the presentation or on Blackboard where you can go and find the information there. When you're done, you should kind of get the idea that, in general, academic dishonesty is any form of academic deceit, and this includes falsifying documents, attempting to change academic records, and any form of plagiarism, which is claiming credit for work done by another person, right? So, here are some common pitfalls. These are things that people commonly mistake as not plagiarism when they actually are. For one, using materials you find online because your instructor said you could. We can understand why this would make sense to you because, you know, the internet is everywhere and you're used to using it, but the problem is that you must have explicit permission to use solution materials. Any old exams, old homeworks, or old lab reports you must have explicit permission to use any form or materials from a course in your own work or in the course of your study. The idea is that we're looking for your representation of the knowledge, not somebody else's from the past, and you must have explicit permission to use any extra materials in a class. The next pitfall is that just because you're allowed to collaborate on homework in one class, you can collaborate in others. This is a very common mistake, but the rule is that every instructor defines their own class policies, and these are always set out clearly in the course syllabus. So study this course syllabus and any assignment materials for what level of collaboration you can have in a class, and make sure you follow those rules. Working together so closely on an assignment or program that your code or finished project is essentially identical to another student. This is kind of obvious. Even though you may have technically written it entirely yourself, if it is so similar that they are essentially identical, that's just as good as plagiarism, right? This is always a violation, even if you didn't actually copy or if collaboration is allowed. The product that you submit should be distinct and unique. We're looking for your ideas, your problem solving, your way of completing assignments, not your work partners or anything like that. Even if you are allowed to collaborate on an assignment, the idea is that it's not sharing materials, it is discussing how to solve problems with each other, but not sharing the solutions to those problems. Loaning your paper, computer, etc. to a friend and trusting them not to copy your work. Now, you can trust a friend usually, but you're putting yourself at risk, right? If your trust is betrayed, you could be held responsible. Whether or not the other student admits to it or not, you could be held responsible for providing access to your work and being copied, because we can't tell from our side whether or not you did it intentionally or unintentionally, so we have to assume the worst in many cases. Using books or online resources or consulting with other students if an exam is take-home or given online. This ties back to the first pitfall, where explicit permission must come from the instructor to use specific resources, no matter how an exam is given. Instructors will not notice if a student copies someone else's computer code or lab report. This is very common, and often we can see very obviously. Human submissions are checked by sophisticated automatic tools and by human eyes. We can tell when two people have copied off of each other, even if you've changed variable names or comments or anything like that. It is very obvious that computer code has been copied, because students will submit. There's always 1,000 ways to solve a particular problem, and students will submit a very wide, diverse range of solutions to any particular assignment. So if two submissions are very similar, it is very likely that they've copied off of each other, and you will be caught. So what if you see one of these violations? It's not only the instructors that report these violations. You too have a responsibility to submit violations when they occur. If you sit by and let it happen, then that is a problem, and that hurts you, it hurts your classmates, it hurts the university as a whole. So please report what you, if you see something going wrong. You can contact the assistant dean directly, Dr. Brian Scrome. You can contact your instructor, your advisor, program chair, basically anybody that works for the university, or if it's a very high level issue, you can contact the ASU Ethics and Compliance Hotline. What can happen if somebody is reported for one of these violations is you can get a 0 or decreased grade for the homework assignment or exam. You can get a penalty on the assignment and the course grade lowered by 1 letter grade. You can get a failing grade or a failure due to academic dishonesty grade in the class. You can be disqualified from the schools of engineering, which basically is a type of suspension, and it's worse if it happens twice. Basically, the Fulton Schools of Engineering have a 2-strike policy, which means that the second offense of any kind results in automatic XE grade. That's a withdrawal due to academic dishonesty, and you are disqualified from enrolling in the Fulton Schools of Engineering for a minimum of 1 year. If you're a first-time violator, this goes on your permanent record, and you become permanently ineligible for the Dean's List. You are ineligible for various honor societies in the Grand Challenge Scholars Program. You can't be hired by the university as a peer mentor or an E2 camp counselor, undergraduate TA, or basically by the engineering department at all. And you are always reported to the dean's office, who maintains a database of prior violations. So it goes on your permanent record. So the biggest problem you're likely to encounter is plagiarism. And we define plagiarism as taking credit for the words or ideas of another, regardless of the form of those ideas. And basically this is stealing. We are looking for your ideas, your individual work, not the work of others. So here are some cases, common cases where people think that they're not plagiarizing when they might actually be. And we're going to give some recommendations on how to avoid plagiarism as a whole. So what if you use someone else's words in a report or a piece of work exactly, but give a reference at the end? Now this is really sensitive. So what you want to do is make sure that you make it absolutely clear that the words that you're quoting are not your own, that they are somebody else's. And the way you do that is by always putting them in quotes, indenting with a smaller typeface, so a smaller font, and immediately following with an in-text citation. These 3 things make it absolutely clear that it's a quotation, and it keeps you from being accused of plagiarizing. This is still sensitive, so even following these rules, if a significant proportion of your submission is quoted, that can still be plagiarism. We saw a individual in the past who quoted his entire report. He took a report from another source and quoted it from beginning to end as his own. He did put quotations marks around it. Indentation was hard to see because there was nothing else to compare it to, and he did put a reference at the end, but since it was all quoted from another source, he actually did not write anything and received a 0 and academic penalties for that. Paraphrasing. You put material from a source into your own words. Now this is very sensitive as well, because you might think that by rewording it or substituting synonyms or changing the sentence structure, you make it your own, but that's not entirely true. Remember, we're looking for your own ideas. You're still taking, when you're paraphrasing, you're taking the ideas of another person and just representing them as your own. These are not your own ideas. So it's very important that you either state explicitly that you're paraphrasing and cite extensively to make sure that you are not plagiarizing in this case. You're not taking credit for ideas that somebody else had come up with. Figures and tables. Plagiarism is not limited to text. So things like graphs, charts, or images, even if they're redrawn by you, you must cite it. Again, it's information that is not your own, that you're presenting as your own. Whether it be graphical information or text information, the ideas behind it, if they're not your own, you must cite it. And just to drive it home, remember plagiarism is about ideas, not just how those ideas are expressed, as in words or pictures. It's about the underlying concepts that are represented in a piece of work. Computer code. This one is very common because there's lots of computer code on the internet. There's lots of places to find ways to solve different problems. And even though you may be permitted to use common code you find on the internet, you should always state and acknowledge the source. And the way you do this is by using comments to cite your code, provide web links to where you found the code, and explicitly make it clear which code you wrote and which parts are from a cited source. Now, this is especially important when you go to work for a company, because the code that you write is intellectual property of that company. You're basically saying, when you write it for that company, this is stuff that I wrote in contract with the company, and the company owns it. Now, if you took that information from another source, that puts the company at legal risk, and it puts your job at risk. So always make sure that you cite code that you are using from another source in the comments. Changing variable names and comments does not make it your work. You have to significantly change or rewrite the structure or implement it entirely differently. Now, this gets a little fuzzy because you'll find common algorithms like sorting algorithms and things like that expressed on the internet in different ways, but the implementation itself is what's important here. Remember, the work that you're doing is solving a problem using coded instructions. That's what we're looking for. If you copy code from another source, you either have to cite it or it is plagiarism. So, another really challenging situation is if you're working on a team project and either you or one of your teammates plagiarizes. Now, if you turn in a report that has plagiarized contents, you are responsible for it, whether or not you actually did the plagiarizing. So make sure that your teammates are not plagiarizing. Make sure that everybody on your team has a chance to review a report before it's submitted, so that you can all verify that it's not been plagiarized. So overall, here are some best practices for avoiding plagiarism. Avoid direct quotations and paraphrasing altogether. So when you are writing your work, when you're writing something, whether it be a piece of code or a report, write from notes. Don't write directly from the original source, because you'll be tempted to use the wording of the original author. If you just write down some high-level notes, you can rephrase it and reintegrate it in your mind in a way that makes it your own. You always want to add value to the information you're using from other sources. And really what it comes down to is often a citation is enough. You don't need to reproduce the content at that citation. You can just mention that it exists. Don't write about the idea. Write about how that idea integrates into your overall understanding of the material and how it integrates into the topic at hand. So, in academic integrity and plagiarism, what we're really looking for is we want to see what you know, right? That's the core of what's going on here. When we assess you, when we give you assignments, when we give you things to do, we're looking to see what it is exactly you know, not what other people know. Cheating only harms you and your peers. If you are not doing the work, if you're copying from someone else and saying this is your own work, that is hurting you, because now you are saying, I'm incapable of doing this, and you're cheating yourself. If you're caught if you're caught outside in the world, if you're not able to fulfill your job because of some knowledge gap, that hurts the brand of ASU. That hurts your friends who also have degrees from ASU. It hurts you because you are now at risk of your job is now at risk, or your career is now at risk, and it really hurts the university. So don't cheat. Remember that plagiarism is about copying ideas, not just how they're represented, whether it be in text or in graphical forms. Cite other people's ideas. Give them credit for their hard work. Add value to the work that you're doing so that you know that what you submit is your best representation of your knowledge, whatever form that might be. Okay? Now go on to Blackboard and complete the academic integrity activity.